आज की तारीख क्या है? 5 दिन तुम्हें और क्लास आना है पार्टी के लिए। 20 को पार्टी है। छोड़ो छोड़ो, क्या लगेगा? ये कर लो आप। I guess we stopped at tundra. So we'll complete this today. That is the concept of biodiversity definition. You already know what is the definition of biodiversity. Variety of life. Shayad we have done this earlier. Biodiversity, it is nothing but the variety of life that is present in an ecosystem. Then when we do the measurement of biodiversity, generally यहाँ से आता है the concept of species richness. That is nothing but the how many variety of the species are found. Then alpha, beta and gamma biodiversity. And then the conservation. We have done half of the things in conservation. Conservation में आता है regarding the in situ, ex situ methods of conservation. And in the in situ आता है the concept of biosphere reserves, national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, national biodiversity programs, national biodiversity areas. So in this conservation, this is the most important point from our exam point of view. And the second important point from the exam point of view is the institutions. Institutions में right from NGOs, Conservation International, BirdLife International, जिसमें से कुछ हुआ है, some of things are remaining, till the concept of what you can say National Wildlife, National Tiger Conservation Authority. So उसमें से we have done the National Tiger Conservation Authority. Fine. Obviously chaired by the Environment Minister, but constituted by the Prime Minister, the National Tiger Conservation Authority. Before we go further, कितने countries में tiger? 13. And secondly, which country has the second largest population of tiger? Russia. After India, Russia has the second largest population of tigers. Now, tiger, can I say, is an Asiatic species? It is mostly an Asiatic animal species. So, and then we have the major current issues. Major current issues में से Pilibhit Tiger Reserve में the program of this is going on. That is the voter census is going on. That is in this year. Last year India has signed the Bonn Convention. Then we have National Wildlife Action Plan. Then we have the program for the critically recovery of endangered species. Then we have launched a program that we want to be a global hub in the migratory birds. So ये 3 program है जिसमें से एक question expected है because this all have been launched in the last year. Some of the programs you may have done in the current affairs ka classes also. That is but we'll do the gist of these programs. What are there in this? Have I taken biodiversity earlier? Brief में major national parks etc. Definition दिया है earlier. So what do you mean by definition of biodiversity? It is the variety of life at the level of genes, species, and as well as ecosystem. This is what is the biodiversity, the variety of life that is present at the level of genes, species, and the ecosystem. And when we see at this variety of life, you can also call this as the genetic diversity. No need of doing at all in detail. Species diversity, because ये सिर्फ आएगा only in prelims, not in the main examination. And ecosystem diversity. That is variety that is found at the level of genes, variety that is found at the level of species, and the variety that is found at the level of ecosystem. What was in the news this year? This was in the news, genetic diversity. Because there was a bigger article in Hindu which said that greater the genetic diversity, greater are the chances for the individuals to survive in the ecosystem. Because the genes, because of the variety of the genes, there is a less chance of genes getting affected because the genes have fighting ability. Now we should also apply this genetic diversity for our understanding of the different types of agricultural practices that is being done in India today, or what you mean by the conservation agriculture, या sustainable agriculture, या monoculture, etc. And we should apply it even to the genetic diversity where it is greater and where it is lesser. So जहाँ पे the genetic diversity is lesser, the species will be more or less threatened. For example, Asiatic lions, for example, wild ass. These are the species which are threatened because the genetic diversity is very less, and therefore 2012 se the thing which is going on is taking the Asiatic lions to the Kunau, and this year taking the Asiatic lions and making it in situ method of ex situ method of conservation, that is safari at Nahargarh in the Rajasthan region. That is the second. Numerous lion safaris in India. There is safari also in UP, but safaris are not that important from the exam point of view. What is important is safari is located near the Nahargarh Wildlife Sanctuary. So Nahargarh Wildlife Sanctuary will become important on the National Highway 8. So that there will be different regions of the Asiatic lions, and even if this breed or this gene pool or this resource gets washed away, इससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा if we have shifted the lions. Then the second region is the Indian wild ass, and यहाँ पे the Indian wild ass is वैसे भी threatened, and therefore the focus of introducing the leopards is not here. The focus is in Narudehi Wildlife Sanctuary. But the government has identified 6 states for the introduction of leopards. We have done that already. What are the states for the introduction of leopards? Fine with this? So first taking into thing, that is why the genetic diversity is. Genetic diversity, the diversity that is found between the single species, but at the level of genes. That is the diversity that is found between all of us here. Though we belong to the single species, but we are not same because we all are genetically diverse individuals. That kind of a diversity is what is genetic diversity. Getting it? So genetic diversity, the diversity that is found, the diversity that is found at the level of genes, at the level of genes, at the level of genes, greater the genetic diversity, greater the genetic diversity. Can I say it is to do with the species richness? Yes, species richness matlab species diversity. Species richness matlab species diversity. So greater the genetic diversity, more capable are the genes, more capable are the genes, more capable are the genes to face different threats. Therefore increasing the chances of organisms, to survive. Because Greater the genetic diversity, better is the adaptation. Greater the genetic diversity, greater is the adaptation. Greater is the adaptation. Greater is the adaptation. Example 1. Example 1. India has more than 10,000 varieties or genes. Varieties, yeah, genetically different. 10,000 varieties. मतलब genetic diversity वाले varieties of rice. Of rice. India has more than 50,000 variety of rice, but we'll limit ourselves to 10,000 because 50,000 has not yet been proved. 10,000 to variety of rice has been discovered. We have more than 1,000 variety of mangoes in the India itself. And therefore, you can see this different mangoes have been able to survive, but unfortunately rice has not been able to survive. इसलिए हम rice लिख रहे हैं, which has now been destroyed under the Green Revolution. So this genetically variety of this rice varieties have faced the onslaught of monoculture promoted by Green Revolution. Monoculture promoted by Green Revolution, resulting into more diabetes in Indian population. More diabetes in Indian population. Why more diabetes in Indian population? Because you, depending upon the geographical area, suppose you are from Tamil Nadu, you used to eat the local variety of rice. Suppose you are from the Konkan coast, you used to eat the local variety. अब सब जगह वही long grain basmati rice मिलता है, और local variety चली गई है, या it has been replaced by tukda basmati rice. Now, this local variety of the rice was adapted to the certain climatic conditions, and based on what is excess in the soil or what is less in the soil, utna nutrients used to be provided by the rice or by the wheat. Wheat was not typically our crop, but rice was our crop. And but the coming of a single variety of rice, we all are rice eating population, we are eating the same kind of rice, ultimately resulting into type 2 diabetes increasing in India. Type 2 diabetes, the kind of diabetes that comes at a very, very young age, that has increased in India, जिसका कोई cure नहीं है. Type 1 diabetes, chalo, it is associated with too much of obesity, too much of hypertension, but type 2 diabetes, which has become genetically, even 6 months old child or even 18-year-old child who is doing exercise regularly gets affected from the type 2 diabetes. This is because of loss of biodiversity. So loss of biodiversity, you have to remember, also affects our health. Fine? Generally the tropics have greater genetic diversities, Species diversity. Species diversity is defined as, thoda technical concept है, species diversity is defined as the ratio of one species population to the total number of organisms across a given biome. Total number of organisms or species in a given biome. So suppose if this is a population of one species, 1,000, fine, and there are more than 1 lakh organisms in one particular biome, means what will be can I say the species diversity is greater, or 10 lakh organisms in one biome? Value क्या आएगा? 0 से ज़्यादा या 0 से कम? मतलब it will be less than 0. Right? 0 point something it will come. On other hand, if it is opposite, if there are 10,000 species of one population and if there are 10,000 organisms only, total organisms, so what will be the value? Value will be 1. Total number of organisms, how many are present? There are 10,000 organisms, and if you want to understand the species diversity, you take the total number of organisms of one particular species. Now, दोनों का population 10,000 है, means the ratio is coming to 1, which means species diversity is 0. It is dominated by only one species, that is this species which we are calculating. Understanding? But if the number of species here are 10,000 and total number of organisms in that given biome are more than 10 lakhs, that means obviously the number will be lesser than 0, 1, right? 0 point something. That means the species diversity is more. The out of 10 lakh population, only 10,000 belongs to this particular species. That means the remaining will belong to some other species. That is what is the species diversity. So what you should remember, in the species diversity, the range is from 0 to 1. 1 is no species diversity, 0 is technically not possible, but hypothetically maximum infinite diversity. Infinite diversity kabhi ho nahi sakta. Fine? So that is what. So the species diversity ranges from 0 to 1, where 0 indicates only one species present, where 0 indicates infinite number of species, 0 indicate infinite number of species, and infinite diversity, and 1 indicates no diversity. Thus the species diversity calculates both species richness, मतलब how rich the ecosystem is in the diversity. The same species richness is another name for the species diversity, and species, what is more, is evenness. Species evenness is the species evenly distributed. See, India as a country has a very high species diversity, but Indian cities do not have birds may species evenness. Today they are dominated by only one species, and that is the pigeon. Species evenness is, if the species evenness is proper, species are evenly distributed, that means the species richness is greater. Species richness matlab diversity. But in certain conditions, the species are unevenly distributed, and this what is known as species unevenness. Koi zyada kaam ka nahi, you should just know technically these 2 points, right? Can I say species diversity is very great in Western Himalayas, Eastern Himalayas? Same points of geography. कहाँ पे ज़्यादा है species diversity in India? Do you have any other classes remaining after the end of environment ecology? Not today. Today, तो we will complete this biodiversity and then go home. इंटरनल सिक्योरिटी तो कब का हो गया. So, मतलब, do you want to continue? You want a break now for the next classes? Prelims के बाद. हाँ, वो तो करेंगे. उसके बाद. So, see now, can I say species greatness, species diversity, species evenness, everything is greatest in the Western Ghats and in the Eastern Himalayas. So, क्यों ज़्यादा है? This is because it is a mixture of these three regions which we are marking. These three regions which we are marking, you should remember, it is a mixture of tropical, evergreen, plus tropical, moist deciduous, plus tropical, dry deciduous, and especially the Himalayas, Eastern Himalayas, are an example of both tropical plus temperate plus alpine plus tundra biogeographic zones. ये तो है ही इधर, plus we have this thing. Now, so based on this, अगर कल क्वेश्चन आता है, that is why Eastern Himalayas have more biodiversity, because they have high temperature, high rainfall, both, or because they have different biogeographic zones. Because they have different biogeographic zones. It is the high temperature, high rainfall which is causing the presence of different biogeographic zones. And because of the different biogeographic zones, matlab biogeographic zones means biomes, the diversity is very, very high. There will be animals belonging to the tropical ecosystem, there will be the animals belonging to the temperate ecosystem, to the alpine ecosystem, to the tundra ecosystem in this. Can someone tell me the name of a most famous animal belonging to the tropical ecosystem in the Himalayas? Tropical ecosystem. Tropical मतलब foothills पे रहेगा in the Himalayas. हाँ? Leopard, tiger, elephants. Leopard में कौन सा leopard? Clouded leopard. The clouded leopard is the most important. Then when we go to the temperate ecosystem, red panda. When we go to उसके ऊपर alpine ecosystem, snow leopard. When we go to the tundra ecosystem, we don't have much animals in the tundra ecosystem, but chiru is the example of an tundra ecosystem. So this is what is chiru. Chiru is what? Kashmir stag. Yeah, Hangul is a Kashmir stag. Hangul is a Kashmir stag. Chiru is an antelope. Now, next point, the Eastern Himalayas. The Eastern Himalayas are especially rich in biodiversity. Are especially rich in biodiversity because high temperature, comma humidity and rainfall promotes the presence of different biogeographic zones. promotes the presence of different biogeographic zones, causing the development of flora and fauna, causing the development of flora and fauna of different biogeographic zones. This is also a densely forested region. And the State of Forest Report 2017. State of Forest Report 2017. सबसे ज्यादा परसेंटेज ऑफ फॉरेस्ट कौन से स्टेट में? नागालैंड, मिजोरम, सिक्किम, अरुणाचल. मिजोरम says that मिजोरम कितना? 91, 88. 91 पुराना था. So मिजोरम ब्रैकेट में 88.9 मतलब 89 के आसपास. You can remember 88.9%, followed by Arunachal, has the largest percentage of area under forest. UT. If they ask you Mizoram के बाद, if the option is Lakshadweep, then Lakshadweep. We are doing only states. Lakshadweep next number पे आता है 84, Arunachal is 82, but we are doing only the states. Has the maximum forest area, right? Next point, species diversity. Is also greater in the tropics. Because of the following reasons. Tell me the reasons. टेम्परेचर, ह्यूमिडिटी, एक ये. दूसरा सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट रीजन, वेगनर का कॉन्टिनेंटल ड्रिफ्ट थियरी कहाँ पे हुआ? जनरली टेम्परेट locations पे. That is, the continents went through, drifted from one place to another, and while they were drifting, there was continuous change in the climate. Some went through the hot phase, some went through the cold age, glaciation. So whatever the life that developed in the hot phase, it was destroyed during the phase of glaciation. Then the life originated in the glaciation, फिर से hot phase आया. So can I say ecological succession has not taken place? What is ecological succession? A sufficient amount of time जिससे small species will ultimately grow and become larger species. So ecological succession कहाँ पे हुआ है? In the tropics. कहाँ पे नहीं हुआ ecological succession? In the higher latitudes. This is the most important point. ये तो first point तो पता है आपको, that it is temperature and humidity. Second point is more important. Ecological succession has not occurred in the temperate regions as it has occurred in the tropical regions. Third point, weathering कहाँ पे ज़्यादा है? In the tropics or in the temperates? Tropics. So because weathering, what kind of weathering is present in the tropics? Chemical weathering is there. Weathering due to heat is there. That is what we say. Someone was asking me about now. That is exfoliation. Exfoliation क्यों होता है? इतनी ज़्यादा गर्मी that the outer layer of the rocks expand and they break out, right? So due to weathering, the soil cover is thicker where? In the tropics. And as the soil is thicker in the tropics, so where will be the greater plant? In the tropics. Jitna greater plant in the tropics, utna greater biodiversity in the tropics. Understanding? Temperate region में we have studied only 5 species: larch, pine, spruce, fir and willow, or moss tundra में. So these are only 5 species that are present in the temperate latitudes. But यहाँ पे there are innumerable species. I'll take the name of some of the species. बरगद, पीपल, मैंगो, जामुन, मैंगो की 1000 varieties इंडिया में, फाइन, नीम, इबोनी, बबुल, टैमरिंड, फाइन, बैम्बू, बैम्बू की 1 लाख से ज़्यादा varieties in India. So this साल, शीशम, सैंडलवुड, रेड सैंडलवुड, व्हाइट सैंडलवुड, ये सब infinite number of species are present in the tropics. This is because the ecological succession takes place. So 3 point होने चाहिए. Why? Because this is the point which was highlighted in Hindu in the month of August. एक पीछे बड़ा article था, so they can take a question from this part. So you can take down. The species diversity is greater. The species diversity is greater in the tropics because of following reason. 1, high heat and humidity. High heat and humidity. High heat and humidity. Second, they have been climatically stable. They have been climatically stable. On other hand, the higher latitudes, have undergone frequent climatic changes due to alternate warm and cold periods. याद रखना, प्लीस्टोसिन आइस एज ग्लेशिएशन. And therefore, ecological succession has not occurred. And thirdly, as weathering and erosion is greater in the tropics, soil mantle, मतलब soil thickness, is greater in the tropics. Or soil thickness, and therefore biodiversity is high. Soil mantle or soil thickness is greater in the tropics, and therefore flora and fauna के कारण मैं इतना नहीं लिखा रहा हूँ, the biodiversity is high. I want you to remember what this word means, soil mantle, क्योंकि I saw a good question in some test series. What is the answer? फिर से सोचो. Soil mantle means soil thickness. Soil mantle will be great या thickness will be great. Slopes पे या plains में? Slopes में तो soil will be removed. Fine. It will be in the plains, not in the slopes. What will happen in the slopes? River के साथ साथ the soil will be removed and it will be deposited in the plains. So lower Ganga plains made very easy for you because it has been made by the deposition by the rivers. Regor regions, black soil wala region, itna thick lava has been broken to form black soil. So आपने पढ़ते भी हो GS NCERT में, that is the black soil is the region of thick soil. So the answer is B and C only. A cancel karo, A goes, you know the answer has to be C also, so B goes. So answer is A and C only. It was not UPSC का test series. This was some past year paper, UPSC का कोई अब दूसरे एग्जाम थोड़ी. Fine. Understood this question very properly? Generally, the species diversity is greater on the smaller islands. In the smaller islands, but these islands have more endemism than species richness. Tell me, do you understand this line? Again, read this line very properly. बायोडाइवर्सिटी तो ज़्यादा है आइलैंड्स पे, मतलब बायोडाइवर्सिटी मीन्स वैरायटी. अब वैरायटी कैसी होनी चाहिए? स्पीसीज रिचनेस. वैरायटी ये भी है कि वी ऑल आर देयर ऑन द पर्टिकुलर स्पीसीज एंड हम एक ही आइलैंड पे मिलते हैं, तो वी आर एंडेमिक. So the island has variety, island has biodiversity. Species richness, मतलब बाकी की भी species it has is larger in number. See, endemism is one particular species is found in that region. Biodiversity is varieties found in that region. Species richness is different number of species are found in this region. So what happens in the island? Island have one unique species which are unique to them. Particular species which are unique to them. But if you talk about species richness, all the different kind of species plus the unique species will be found, you will not find that. Australia has kangaroo, but Australia does not have a large number of animals and plants which is similar to India. Though there is endemism, kangaroo, but it does not have species richness. Fine? Now getting it? Means there will be lesser variety of the species, but some species will be unique to them. Getting it? So that is what, in other words, the uniqueness, there will be unique species on the islands. There will be unique species on the islands. But all the varieties won't be found on the islands. All the varieties won't be found on the islands. Therefore, the general rule is, general rule ko there are always exceptions. General rule is, islands are poorer in species richness as compared to the mainland areas. As compared to the mainland areas. Islands are very poor in species richness as compared to the mainland areas. Andaman and Nicobar Island is a biodiversity hotspot. You will find very high biodiversity. But that biodiversity won't be as great in number as we compare to the entire mainland India. Mainland India mein you will find very high number of biodiversity. Then why we call island as a biodiversity hotspots? Because hotspots means endemism plus threatened. Most of the island species are threatened. Why they are threatened? Now kangaroo. It has lived its entire life in Australia. फाइन कोई थ्रेट नहीं है, आराम से जी रहा है. सडनली कोई टाइगर चला जाता है ऑन द ऑस्ट्रेलियन आइलैंड स्विमिंग से या शिप में से छिप के, एंड इट गोज ऑन दैट. क्या दिखेगा टाइगर को? अरे वाह, यहाँ पे तो सारे वो एनिमल्स है जो मेरी स्पीड को मैच ही नहीं कर सकते. आई जस्ट हैव टू catch them and eat them. That means, can I say, if any invasive alien species comes on the island, it can destroy the vegetation or species diversity or anything of the islands? Getting it? You are living on an island, isolated ho, you are enjoying the life. Fine, suppose you are a kangaroo, you are hopping from one place to another, you don't have any threat. The most dangerous animal you have seen in life is wild dog from Australia. Right? And suddenly, due to continental drift, the continents join. And now all the lions and tigers from Asia come on that Australia. Yeah, from Africa come on that Australia. Can the kangaroo survive? No. So that is, or this is what I mean. For example, kangaroo is also a home to a bird, or kiwi was a bird which could not fly. Dodo was a bird which could not fly. What has happened to dodo? Dodo has got extinct. Kiwi is on the verge of extinction. Kiwi is abhi bhi survive karta है in Australia because small isolated island and nobody is worrying and going there. We will see one bird today, Nicobar megapod, जो हमने उसका, though we have seen उसका photo earlier. क्या खासियत है निकोबार मेगापोड की? Why it is so special? Because it makes the nest on the ground. Why? Because on the Nicobar Island, which is isolated island, it does not have any threat except for the snakes. Snakes को वो मार सकता है निकोबार मेगापोड. Fine. So, but suppose if Andaman and Nicobar suddenly become a part of India, join India, then this all species will get extinct. Why? Because the island biodiversity is most vulnerable to invasive alien species. Fine with this? So this was the second article from Hindu. So you have to prepare these two questions very, very properly. General rule क्या है? कम है as per the mainland. But species क्या है? Islands पे there is high degree of endemism. But biodiversity is less. Now, next point. Most of the islands are unique in a way that they have high degree of endemism, but the species are threatened. Because an invasive alien species can easily colonize or take over. Invasive alien species can easily colonize or take over the island. It does not have any threat. That is why I took the best example of Australia. Tiger को वहाँ पे कोई threat नहीं है. There is Still tiger ko there is a threat in Africa. If it goes to Madagascar, if it goes to Africa, it is a threat. Kya threat hai? It will have to fight leopards, it will have to fight cheetah, it will have to fight hyenas. But there is no threat in Australia because Australia is an example of an isolated island. It has no threat. And therefore, due to endemism, underline the word endemism, and due to threat perception, underline the word threat perception. Endemism and threat perception. Islands are biodiversity hotspots. Islands are biodiversity hotspots. Endemism and threat perception, they are biodiversity hotspot. Means if anything is a biodiversity hotspot, what are the two things you have to find in the answer? Endemism and threatened. Anything will be declared as a hotspot if it is threatened and if it has endemism. Getting it? Are you carrying the questions? Bring tomorrow all the questions. I will only discuss all the questions tomorrow. So I will after that stop we will finish the topics. एक जो 250 क्वेश्चंस जो बचे हैं डिस्कशन के लिए विल डिस्कस दूं टुमारो. इकोसिस्टम डाइवर्सिटी कोई लिखने की जरूरत नहीं. डाइवर्सिटी दैट इज फाउंड इन द इकोसिस्टम. ट्रॉपिकल इकोसिस्टम, टुंड्रा इकोसिस्टम, दिस इकोसिस्टम, दैट इज व्हाट इज द इकोसिस्टम डाइवर्सिटी. ये कुछ नहीं, जो हमने 12 बायोम्स किए हैं वो है इकोसिस्टम डाइवर्सिटी. कुछ लिखने की जरूरत नहीं. यू ऑलरेडी नो सबसे हाई इकोसिस्टम बायोडाइवर्सिटी इज इन ट्रॉपिकल डेसिडियस या ट्रॉपिकल एवरग्रीन फॉरेस्ट. सो देयर इज नो नीड ऑफ राइटिंग. These are bit technical concepts. Alpha diversity. Can someone tell me what is alpha diversity? Alpha, beta, gamma. This is a place. I am finding out how many animals are present, how many different species that are present in this one particular locality. There is another place and this has some other animal species which are found. I find out how many animals are present in the locality A, in the locality B. If I find out only what is present between A or what is present in B, that is alpha. But if I, after finding out, if I compare कि किसमें ज़्यादा है, that is beta. So within an area, alpha. Comparison, beta. और total area में, if this is another, this is totally found in an area C, then this is gamma. You'll understand it in the definition. Alpha biodiversity. It refers to diversity within, underline the word within, refers to diversity within a particular area or ecosystem. Diversity within a particular area or ecosystem. Can I say it is nothing but कैसे diversity आप measure करोगे? कितनी number of species है? So it is nothing but species evenness या species richness. कितनी number of species है? You will ask me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Here are 7 different species present. Here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 species are present. So this is the species richness. Fine. It is expressed as the number of species. It is expressed as the number of species. That is the species richness in an ecosystem. अब these are two ecosystems, A, this is B. These are the number of species, जितने number of circles है. So can I say 7? Right? Are there 7 circles? How many crosses are there? 5. So what is the species richness in B? 7. What is the alpha diversity of B? 7. What is the alpha diversity of B of A? 5. What is the beta diversity of A and B? 2. Difference. कितनी species ज़्यादा है किसमें? Fine. So beta diversity क्या ना ये say is used to compare the number of species between two different ecosystems. Fine. So beta diversity of Western Ghats versus beta diversity of Himalayas. You will compare it. So beta diversity is a comparison. Underline the keywords. उसमें number of species. Prelims के लिए सिर्फ इतना कर जाना. Alpha number, beta comparison between the ecosystems. It is a comparison of diversity between the ecosystems. And it is measured as the change in the amount of species between the ecosystems. It is measured as the change in the amount of species between the ecosystems. Change in the amount of species between the ecosystems. And last is the gamma diversity. This can be Western Himalayas, this can be Himalayas, this can be Western Ghats. So this is the alpha diversity here. जब दोनों के बीच में compare करोगे तो beta diversity. But is this a part of India? So when we say पूरे India की diversity, it is a gamma diversity. This is so easy concepts. Don't do it from any other part. क्योंकि बुक्स में थोड़ा कॉम्प्लिकेटेड दिया है. एंड सेकेंडली टू टेक 20 years का क्वेश्चन पेपर एक बार भी यूपीएससी ने पूछा नहीं है. बट आई डोंट नो व्हाई एवरीवन लर्न्स दैट, बिकॉज दिस इज नॉट रिक्वायर्ड फॉर जनरल स्टडीज, बट स्टिल इट इज गिवन इन बायो एनसीईआरटी, सो वी शुड बी डूइंग इट. फाइन. सो द थर्ड थिंग, gamma diversity. It is a measure of overall diversity. It is a measure of overall diversity. Measure of overall diversity within a region. Overall diversity within a region. Overall diversity within a region. And now we come directly to the prelims based and interesting part. Considering India. India, how much percent of land? 2.4% of lands. Having how much percent of population? 18% of world's population. And having how much percentage of world's biodiversity? 17%. So, India is located at a junction of different biogeographic zones. एक साइड अफ्रीका है, एक साइड यूरेशिया है, एक साइड साउथ ईस्ट एशिया है. Different biogeographic zones. And therefore, with only 2.4% of the world's land, 2.4% of the world's land, it has around 7% of world's recorded species, and is ranked fifth in reptiles, seventh in amphibians, and 10th in birds. and 10th in birds. And therefore, to conserve the birds, Government of India has launched National Plan for Conservation of Migratory Birds. National Plan for Conservation of Migratory Birds. वहाँ पे लिखना रेफर PPT. Now, why so much biodiversity in India? I told you 100% a question out of the 3 plans we are going to do today. And the rest of the questions will be from the animals, etc. Why so much biodiversity in India? Because एक part of India is a part of Eurasian biome, that is Himalayas and this part. And the दूसरा part comes under the Asian and African biome. So because of this, not exactly biome, we come at a junction of 2 bigger areas. एक side में we have north में Eurasian region and south में we have the Malayan Arctic region, and therefore we come under a junction of, we are having 2 realms. Realms are divided into biomes. Biomes are divided into biogeographic zones. Biogeographic zones based on that are divided into the cropping pattern and cropping zones. But what is more important is only this part. So India is a region composed of 2 realms. India is a region composed of 2 realms. That is, the Himalayan region consists of it is Paleo-Arctic realm, or it is also known as Palearctic realm. Pali, old land. Old, कौन सा land है ये? This is Eurasian. This is Angara land. Arctic, because most of it is having a cold climate. So Himalayas come under the Paleo-Arctic realm, and the peninsular India comes under the Malayan or Malayan realm. Comes under the Malayan realm. Which is further divided into 5 biomes. कौन से है 5 biomes in India? I am taking the name of the biomes. Tell me, are they present in India or not? Tropical evergreen forest biome, desert and semi-desert biome, Mediterranean biome. No. Grassland biomes. Tropical, मतलब grasslands है कि नहीं? Grassland biome. Fine, alpine biome. And tropical deciduous biome. So these are the, अब alpine biome is further divided into different biogeographic zones. इतना detail में हमें नहीं करना है. So the 5 biomes that are present in India. The 5 biomes that are present in India are tropical humid rainforest biome, second, tropical dry deciduous biome or monsoon biome. Third, warm desert and semi-desert biome. Fourth, Coniferous forest biomes. Tell me the area. यहाँ से इंपॉर्टेंट है, पहले दोनों का तो एरिया आपको पता भी है. टेल मी द एरिया. कॉनिफरस बायोम्स. वेस्टर्न हिमालयास या हिमालयास या पूरा हिमालयास? दोनों में होगा, बट डोमिनेटेड इन द वेस्टर्न हिमालयास. सो कॉनिफरस बायोम, फुल स्टॉप. दिस इज प्रेजेंट. इसमें दिस इज प्रेजेंट. This is present in India, along the entire Himalayan ranges, under the entire Himalayan ranges, but dominated in Western Himalayas. In the Western Himalayas. In the eastern Himalayas, this biome is found at a comparatively greater height. Compared to Western Himalayas. Q, tell me. Q comparatively greater height. मतलब इसका ये मतलब है, this both are the Himalayas. In the Western Himalayas and the Eastern Himalayas. In the Western Himalayas, if it is starting at the height of 2,500 meters, यहाँ पे it will start at the height of 3,500 meters. Why? Because यहाँ पे rainfall is greater, heat is greater, humidity is greater, and therefore lower part में क्या है? Tropical forest. यहाँ पे lower part में tropical forest is less. Getting it? So based on this, I had asked you last time, due to the melting of ice caps and glaciers, or due to global warming in India, in the Himalayas, the tree line will be shifting northwards or southwards. अगर कल क्वेश्चन आता है, what will be the impact of global warming in the Himalayas? So जो tree line है, that means जहाँ पे trees can grow, trees start growing, they will shift southwards या northwards. फिर से सोचो. At the top there is snow. Trees cannot grow. So the trees have started growing much from the south. अब जैसे ही ice is melting or the glaciers are melting, this is becoming warmer, and now the trees will start growing upwards. So where it will grow? Now northwards. So ये एक bracket में कहीं तो this applied part what I wanted to tell you is most of you were confident on northwards. फिर सब मैंने पूछा, फिर से सोचो. तो एग्जाम्स में आंसर हम वही करते हैं, जब हम ज़्यादा सोचने लगते हैं तो यू चेंज राइट आंसर इनटू अ रॉन्ग आंसर. सो वट एवर कम्स फर्स्ट इन द माइंड इज ऑलवेज राइट. ये रूल याद रखना. द सेम थिंग विल हैपन इन द एग्जामिनेशन. फाइन. अरे नहीं साउथवर्ड्स, नहीं नॉर्थवर्ड्स. क्यों? क्योंकि नो कॉन्फिडेंस. सो डोंट डू दिस इन द एग्जामिनेशन. जो फर्स्ट स्ट्राइक में जो राइट है दैट इज द राइट आंसर. ऐसे फिर से सोचोगे तो ये ही करोगे आप. मोस्ट ऑफ यू आर सेइंग नॉर्थवर्ड्स, मैंने बोला फिर से सोचो, आंसर शिफ्ट कर दिया साउथवर्ड्स. ऐसा जरूरी नहीं है. एंड द सेम टेक्निक इज यूज्ड इन इंटरव्यू टू प्रेशराइज यू. फाइन. आर यू वेरी श्योर? फिर आप सोचने लगते हो. फाइन. Fine with this. So be now first interview तो बाद में be very sure about in the prelims. Prelims में whatever comes in the mind first, उसको even if you are very doubtful, तो what you should do? If the answer is A, B, C, D, आपको पहली बार देख के लगता है no the answer is C, वहाँ पे एक छोटा डॉट मार्क करो. Whether even if you don't attempt it, go to the next. कभी कभी इसका आंसर आगे के क्वेश्चंस में मिल जाता है. अगर नहीं मिला तो यू कैन कम बैक एंड देन सोच के, अगर आंसर डी लग रहा है बहुत ज्यादा बट मन नहीं मार रहा है, टेक रिस्क एंड मार्क सी. दैट वाज द फर्स्ट टाइम यू हैड सीन. व्हाई इट कम्स इन योर माइंड? क्योंकि कभी ना कभी पढ़ा होता है, कभी ना कभी वो आवाज गूंजती है टीचर की इन योर द सबकॉन्शियस माइंड. सो यू हैव टू, बट वापिस आके you should know which जो आया था मन में पहला. Because your subconscious mind will stop telling you. Once you don't listen to your subconscious mind, it will stop telling you. So, how to remember that whether the answer was C or not, एक dot mark करते जाओ. Maybe this was my right answer. And then after coming, if you think logically, nahi, this was wrong and D is the right answer, you can mark D. But even if you are not sure between C and D, then mark C. Take some risk in the examination and mark C. What? Snow line, tree line in the northern Himalayas. Northern या southern? Northern या southern या eastern and western? Northern में ज़्यादा है snow line. It will act as a barrier. We'll discuss that question. So, southern slopes क्या है? One slope which is facing India. The one which is facing India will have more rainfall. More rainfall, more heat. Northern slopes कौन से है? Northern slopes which are not facing India. They don't get direct sunlight. Tropic of Cancer तक sun है. The sunlight will be more on the southern slopes. So southern slopes are more densely forested than the northern slopes. Getting it? किसी को समझ में आया this question? He is asking the snow line will be, what was the question? Is the snow line or a tree line? What was the exact question? Pass. The snow line is at higher elevation, higher height in the southern slopes than on the northern slopes of the Himalayas. True or false? True. That answer is true. Why the southern slopes is at higher elevation? Matlab, the Himalayas have two slopes. One is the south which is facing India, one is to the north, which is going to get more heat. The one which is facing the Tropic of Cancer. So this is going to get more heat and more rainfall. So in the southern slopes versus the northern slopes, if this is the Himalayas, you will have to walk more, then the temperature will be less. And uske baad the snow you will find there. What happens in the northern slopes? Northern slopes mein cold winds are stopped by the northern mountains, northern slopes, and therefore snow आपको नीचे से ही मिलना शुरू होता है in the northern slopes. I don't know what इसका answer is. Which is the correct. So the snow line at higher. इसका आंसर C दिया है. The snow line on the western Himalayas is higher elevation than the eastern Himalayas. True or false? The snow line in the western Himalayas is at a greater height than the eastern Himalayas. False, ये समझ में आया सबको? So that is right. The snow line is at a higher elevation on the southern slopes than on the northern slopes. This is also right. The precipitation, latitude and the topography of a place determines the elevation of an snow line. Obviously, this is very right. This answer should be 2 and 3, not 3 only. ये अपनी टेस्ट है? So, इसका answer is 2 and 3, B. Question number 76. Understood? Should I read again? Consider the following statements regarding the snow line in the Himalayas. The snow line in the western Himalayas is at a higher height than the snow line in the eastern Himalayas. True or false? False. Western Himalayas में बारिश कम होती है. They receive less insolation because they are very very far away from the tropics as they are syntaxial band. So snow वहाँ पे नीचे से मिलना शुरू हो जाता है as compared to the eastern Himalayas. Snow होता है ना. Yes. यही तो main reason है. इसलिए तो first statement wrong है. Second, the snow line is at higher elevation in the southern slopes of the Himalayas. Southern slopes means one which is facing us than on the northern slopes of the Himalayas. It is very obvious. See, if you go to Leh Ladakh region, you will find snow near the ground. But if you go to the east southern slopes, you will not find snow at that greater height because it is getting more heat. So snows ke liye you will have to go much higher in the southern slopes. So second statement is right statement. Snow line is higher elevation on the southern slopes facing us than on the northern slopes. Yes. Tibet Plateau heats up in summers. Snow will be present in the winters. स्नो लाइन एक जनरलाइज स्टेटमेंट है, मैं लिखाऊंगा आपको ये. टिबेट प्लाटू वाला भूल जाओ. Tibetan plateau is after the Great Himalayas. In each and every Himalayas there is a northern slope and the southern slope. Great Himalayas का northern and southern, Shivaliks का northern and southern. इसकी बात हम कर रहे हैं. So this statement is right statement. And then when we say उन्होंने दिया है the precipitation, latitude and the topography of a place determine the elevation, yes, this is right. We'll write this again if there is any doubt. Now bracket में ये लिखो, due to the global warming, the snow line in the Himalayas, will shift northwards because the snow will start melting. लोअर लैटिट्यूड्स में लोअर हाइट पे ज्यादा मेल्ट होगा स्नो क्योंकि गर्मी बढ़ेगी. विल शिफ्ट नॉर्थवर्ड्स बिकॉज द स्नो विल स्टार्ट मेल्टिंग, पुशिंग द ट्री लाइन क्या नॉर्थवर्ड्स या साउथवर्ड्स? नॉर्थवर्ड्स. पुशिंग द ट्री लाइन नॉर्थवर्ड्स. तो स्नो मेल्ट होके व्हाट विल हैपन इज द trees will start growing in that region. Fourth biogeographic zone. Fifth biogeographic zone, alpine meadows. Alpine meadows or the alpine grasslands. कहाँ पे है अब? वेस्टर्न हिमालयस, ईस्टर्न हिमालयस? मोस्टली वेस्टर्न हिमालयस. अल्पाइन ग्रासलैंड्स. हैज समवन फ्रॉम हियर विजिटेड अ प्लेस नोन एज खजियार? सो व्हाट इज देयर इन खजियार? कुछ नहीं है, मतलब क्या घास है? कौन से सीजन में गए थे? तो बर्फ मिलेगी, घास कैसे मिलेगी? बट इफ यू गो इन द मंथ ऑफ मार्च अप्रैल, व्हाट यू विल सी, इट इज एन कंप्लीट ग्रासलैंड्स. और द फेमस प्लेस इन हिमाचल प्रदेश जहां पे वन ऑफ द हाईएस्ट क्रिकेटिंग ग्राउंड इज लोकेटेड, व्हाट इज दैट प्लेस? वेयर? ये धर्मशाला नहीं, जहां पे क्रिकेट खेला जाता है वो Chel is a place जहाँ पे one of the highest cricketing ground is located, but it is not used. Why cricketing ground? Because in the higher height, जहाँ पे the temperature is very less, trees won't be growing. So there will be only grasses, and these grasses will be similar to the grasses we find in Switzerland. Switzerland is Alps, and these are known as alpine grasslands. Up this alpine grasslands in Kashmir are known as margs. And you know Gulmarg, Sonmarg, etc. These all are alpine grasslands. And in this alpine grasslands, the most important animal is, you have seen if you have gone to Kashmir, to Shimla, yak. The most important animal is yak. Fine? So, Khajiyar is one of the example of an alpine grassland. Because if you go to Khajiyar, in the month of अप्रैल में यू विल जस्ट सी ग्रास मीडोज. ओपन ग्राउंड है वहां पे, सिर्फ डलहौसी के थोड़ा ऊपर. डलहौसी पे बहुत ज्यादा पेड़, बट उसके ऊपर यू विल नॉट फाइंड अ ट्री देयर, एंड दिस इज व्हाट इज नोन एज एन अल्पाइन ग्रासलैंड्स. मोर डोमिनेंट इन द वेस्टर्न हिमालयस, बट यस दे आर ऑल्सो प्रेजेंट इन द ईस्टर्न हिमालयस. राइट? सो अल्पाइन ग्रासलैंड्स और अल्पाइन मीडोज, अल्पाइन ग्रासलैंड्स और अल्पाइन मीडोज are found in both eastern and western Himalayas. But the biggest alpine meadows are located in the western Himalayas. In the state of Jammu and Kashmir, they are known as margs. Same points है geography के. They are known as margs. They are also present across river Kali Gandak. In Uttarakhand, where they are known as, anyone from Uttarakhand? They are known as Bugyals. That is from the height 3,300 meters plus. 3,300 meters plus. Bracket, above 3,300 meters. And in the eastern Himalayas, these are found in Sikkim. Above 4,000 meters. Above 4,000 or 4,500 meters. Above 4,000 or 4,500 meters. देखो, सारा अल्पाइन जो वेजिटेशन है 3,000 से कितने मीटर्स आगे शिफ्ट हो गया? 1,000 मीटर. क्यों? क्योंकि नीचे क्या है? ट्रॉपिकल एवरग्रीन फॉरेस्ट. सो स्नो लाइन इसके ऊपर, स्नो लाइन भी ऊपर शिफ्ट हो जाएगी. दे आर ऑल्सो फाउंड इन द रीजन्स ऑफ सिक्किम एंड अरुणाचल प्रदेश, वेयर द फेमस बायोस्फीयर रिजर्व्स आर. Dihang Dibang Biosphere Reserve, state Arunachal Pradesh. Dihang Dibang Biosphere Reserve, Arunachal Pradesh. And उसमें क्या famous national park? Mauling National Park. Is it in the news? Mauling National Park? Yes, Mauling National Park. It is in the news for Takin. Mauling National Park, it is famous for Takin. Takin is vulnerable. Takin is vulnerable. Species of goat or known as bracket में musk ox, endemic to eastern Himalayas. It is the national animal of Bhutan, याद रखना. It is the national animal of Bhutan. It is not belonging to the cattle family. एग्जाम में मत याद रखो नेशनल एनिमल ऑफ भूटान, पढ़ते समय याद रखो नेशनल एनिमल ऑफ भूटान, मतलब वो कहाँ पे मिलता है? ओनली इन ईस्टर्न हिमालयस. इट इज नॉट फाउंड इन द वेस्टर्न हिमालयस. फाइन, ईस्टर्न हिमालयस. मस्क ऑक्स. डोंट गो बाय द वर्ड ऑक्स बिकॉज टाकिन बिलोंग्स टू द शिप एंड गोट फैमिली. right? Next important national park in this region, Valley of Flowers National Park. Valley of Flowers कौन से स्टेट में? उत्तराखंड. Valley of Flowers, UNESCO World Heritage Site. Is this the same as Ranikhet? Is it nearby Ranikhet? Valley of Flowers. Valley of Flowers, why it is known as Valley of Flowers? क्या है Valley of Flowers में? Why it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site? This is common GK based question you should know from India. Why? Because it is the region which is surrounded by flowers in the region of spring. You will find this entire region colorful, only of small flowers. Flowers कहाँ पे होंगे? Tree पे या grasslands पे? Grasslands पे. So what is this? This is nothing but alpine grasslands. Next, Nanda Devi Biosphere Reserve. Nanda Devi Biosphere Reserve. Nanda Devi Biosphere Reserve. The upper part of this Nanda Devi Biosphere Reserve that is about 3,500 meters is known as Nanda Devi and Valley of Flowers is known as Nanda Devi and Valley of Flowers National Park. Which is famous for snow leopard, Himalayan musk deer, and Asian brown bear or Himalayan brown bear. Underline the word Himalayan brown bear. अगर आपको याद है हमने जो PPT देखी है उसमें the first animal is Himalayan brown bear, critically endangered. And Dihang Dibang Biosphere Reserve में we have the famous national park that is Namdapha National Park is also located in the Dihang Dibang Biosphere Reserve. So कितने biogeographic zones? 5. Understood? Question कहाँ से आते हैं? Last 2 के यहाँ से. Therefore we have done this in detail. There are 2 methods of conservation of biodiversity, in situ, ex situ. And then there are certain organizations that are associated with the biodiversity conservation. Now, obviously, if you have gone through the past year questions, which is most important is the organizations. कैसे करोगे organizations? Whatever we write in the class, आज ही रट लो class में. That is, this is the organizations of the biodiversity. Because UPSC will ask you only 2 or 3 statements regarding the organizations. क्या है conventions, organizations of the biodiversity? You must have heard about UN sites. You must have heard about traffic. You must have heard about Project Mike. You must have heard about M Stripes. So this all you must have heard about National Wildlife Bureau, Wildlife Crime Control Bureau. These are some of the conventions, organizations associated with the biodiversity. नागोया प्रोटोकॉल, कार्टिजिना प्रोटोकॉल, आईची बायोडाइवर्सिटी टारगेट्स, ये सब इसमें आएंगे. बट एक फॉर्मेलिटी के लिए वी आर डूइंग एक, क्योंकि बहुत आसान क्वेश्चन आएगा, व्हाट इज एक्स सेतु, व्हाट इज इन सेतु मेथड ऑफ कंजर्वेशन. सो व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय एक्स सेतु मेथड ऑफ कंजर्वेशन? यू टेक एन एनिमल from uska habitat and try to conserve it outside. So that is what is known as an ex situ method of conservation. That is outside uska natural habitat. Is ex situ conservation of some animal which was stopped by NGT and ultimately said no by Supreme Court, which tell the name of the animal. So aisa question nahi aayega, I am just telling you what is that. The Supreme Court recently said no to the captive breeding of hangul. So what is captive breeding? Captive breeding will come in situ ya ex situ? Ex situ. Captive breeding means you capture that animal and you put them in the zoo or in any kind of an botanical garden or in the lab and then try to breed uska project. So that is the method of ex situ. Supreme Court ने क्यों कहा मना किया होगा? Though the species hangul या Kashmir stag is critically endangered. Why Supreme Court may have said no to the captive breeding of hangul? Or Supreme Court says no to the captive breeding of tigers or to the lions. It is the last method of conservation. Why? Let us first see what are the ex situ methods of conservation. So tell me the famous ex situ methods of conservation. Zoo. Then gene bank. Then seed bank. Then recreational. ये क्या होता है? मतलब what is that? पढ़ा था, tell me what is that? कुछ नहीं, the same. You must have seen, any garden that is used for recreation. These are some of the ex situ method of conservation. Zoo, botanical gardens, gene banks, seed banks, and recreational parks, captive breeding, cryopreservation. Cryopreservation, preserving the animal remains under very, very low temperature, which will help in captive breeding or raising the animal in lab later on, or what is known as aquariums and nurseries. What is the biggest threat of this thing, of the in situ method of conservation? Ex situ method of conservation. कि सबसे पहले you are removing the animal from the habitat. You take the tiger, conserve it in the zoo, raise the tiger in the zoo, make the tiger from 10 to 100 tigers, release the tigers back to the forest. Will they be able to adapt? No, they won't be able to adapt. The tigers which have been raised in the zoo, and if we leave them back to the forest, they are killed by the dogs. Why? Because they have forgotten that they are tigers. They have forgotten their fighting instinct. सेम थिंग कि आपको घर में पूरा देर बंद करके रखा और फिर आपको बेस्ट कंडीशंस दिए, पूरा खाना टाइम पे दिया, यू आर बॉर्न एंड ब्रॉट अप इन लग्जरी, एंड थोड़ा भी इफ यू कम टू द रियल लाइफ जहाँ पे अप्स एंड डाउन्स आर देयर, विल बी एबल टू फेस दैट? नो. No, you won't be able to face that. You will go in depression. You will go in this. For example, see, any super rich kid versus you. दोनों एक साथ रेलवे स्टेशन पे है, कुछ नहीं है रेलवे स्टेशन पे, ना पानी मिल रहा है, ना आपके पास गाड़ी है, और एक आइसोलेटेड रेलवे स्टेशन पे आप अपना बिस्तर निकालोगे, तकिया बनाओगे उसका और सो जाओगे. ही विल सर्च कि यहाँ पे नेट क्यों नहीं है, यहाँ पे ये क्यों नहीं है, उसके ऊपर इतना दूसरे दिन बड़ा ड्रामा हो जाएगा कि कैसे कैसे मैं फंस गया था, एक्सेट्रा. द सेम थिंग हैपेंस टू द टाइगर्स, लेपर्ड्स, एक्सेट्रा, हु आर ब्रॉट अप इन द कैप्टिव ब्रीडिंग. दे कैन नॉट बी रीइंट्रोड्यूस्ड. इसलिए सुप्रीम कोर्ट सेज कि कोई फायदा नहीं है captive breeding of hangul ka, because if you introduce them back into this natural habitat, they may be again killed. Usse acha survival of the fittest. Protect that area from the human beings, stop the hunting and let the animals grow naturally. That is there. This is one thing. Second thing is, that is my common question to each and every batch every year. How many of you go to zoo regularly? What was the last time when you have gone to zoo? New Year. This New Year. उससे पहले? See, generally, people go to botanical gardens for something other purposes, or the recreational gardens, एक्वेरियम्स. कि कुछ काम नहीं है तो चलो आज एक्वेरियम घूमने जाए, क्योंकि पीवीआर में टिकट नहीं मिली है और बहुत ज़्यादा एसी, गर्मी ज़्यादा है तो चलो एक्वेरियम घुमाए. या स्टार्टिंग में इम्प्रेस करने के लिए पार्टनर को, कि टू शो हाउ स्टूडियस आई एम, कि रादर देन टेकिंग यू टू कैफे, कॉफी डे और पब, आई एम टेकिंग यू टू नेशनल म्यूजियम. दोनों इंटरेस्टेड नहीं होते, बट द एक्वेरियम्स एक्सेट्रा. एंड देन ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम यू विल गो टू जू ट्वाइस. एक बार आपके पेरेंट्स लेके जाएंगे और दूसरी बार आप अपने बच्चों को ले जाओगे. बस दिस आर द ओनली 2 times you are going to go to zoo. So otherwise you are not going to go to zoo. If you go to Delhi ka zoo, you will not find major animals there. Fine. So that is what is happening in the in situ method of preservation. But ये mains का topic है, so I am not going to make you write here. You should know 2 things for the in situ method of preservation. कि for the prelims, कि one, it is harmful because the animal cannot be reintroduced in the habitat. Second thing, because people are no longer interested, therefore funding of the zoos, botanical gardens, aquariums, etc. has been reduced, and they are no longer preferred method of conservation. But इसमें सबसे important is because, see, we don't go, but we require it, and is the seed bank. Now, what is the seed banks? Seed banks are the regions, because global warming is a reality, because climate change is a reality. Therefore, generally, most of the seeds from all over the world or from different places are taken and stored, जहाँ पे उनका life will increase, and we will call this as a seed bank. So, what we do, all over the world का seeds we collect, different varieties of seed, and we store them in Norway. And that is what is known as the global seed vault, or what is known as a doomsday vault. Doomsday vault, if there is no rice left in India because of monoculture, we then realize कि नहीं, बासमती लेना नहीं है, but local variety of rice है ही नहीं, local variety of mangoes है ही नहीं, local variety of any food है नहीं, because maybe drought comes for 3 years and everything gets vanished, or maybe India में there is a forest fire. So how will you reintroduce the seeds? उसके लिए the seeds are stored in the world level का seeds are stored at global seed vault, जिसको कहा जाता है, दूसरा name is doomsday vault. What do you mean by doomsday? जब तबाही होने वाली है, doomsday vault which is stored so that it can be reintroduced. But the problem इसका है, seeds का life is only for 3 to 4 years and they need to be replenished again and again. India का also doomsday vault is there, and India का national seed bank is in, or seed vault is in Leh Ladakh region. That is, we are storing the seeds at very low temperature. What is meant by cryopreservation? Low temperature, but by using liquid nitrogen. That is what is known as an cryopreservation. This is natural, this is artificial. Cryopreservation में especially genes और insemination के लिए some of the things are stored so that the bovine national Gokul mission और सब में जो होने वाला है, what is going to be used is cryopreservation. What is national Gokul mission? Rashtriya Gokul mission, I have told you already, it is regarding the इंडियन ब्रीड्स को और स्ट्रॉन्ग बनाने के लिए. हैव यू गॉट दैट? इसका हैंडआउट्स नाउ, लेटेस्ट वाला. All the national issues, international issues, means all the schemes and international issues. Even if you do that, it is more than enough. Because if you see, उसको time इसलिए लगा क्योंकि cut कर दिया. It is only 113 pages and has all the relevant schemes. 108 pages and has all the relevant international affairs in the news. Fine. So we will say, take down here. The problem of in situ conservation, the problem of ex situ conservation, the problem of ex situ conservation is that first, focus is only on commercially viable seeds. Focus is only on commercially viable seeds. Or flagship species, or the flagship species. Flagship species. I told you what is flagship species much earlier. Celebrity species. Zoo में आप किसको देखने जाते हो? टाइगर को. बाकी आपको लेना देना ही नहीं है. But tiger will not survive without tropical deciduous forest. Do we conserve that? No, we conserve only tiger. We don't conserve tiger ka prey. So the focus is only on selective species, not on the conservation of biodiversity. Second, do this only for prelims, and even if it comes for mains, you will be able to write it much, but with the obviously with the help of examples. Second, if a animal is reintroduced in its natural habitat, if an animal is reintroduced in its natural habitat, the animal finds it difficult to survive in the wild. The animal finds it difficult to survive in the wild. Survive in the wild, and hence the entire idea of reintroducing the animal in the wild is defeated. Entire idea of reintroducing the animal in the wild is defeated. Hence the captive breeding of the animals, मतलब zoo में captive breeding of the animals should be used only in exceptional circumstances. Used only in exceptional circumstances. Used only in the exceptional circumstances. Fine. Third, seed bank. ये prelims के लिए अच्छी तरह से. Who declares zoo in India? Zoological Survey of India. Under which act? Wildlife Protection Act. So we will do that separately. Who declares botanical gardens? That is the Botanical Survey of India. Act कौन सा है? वही है, Wildlife Protection Act. Don't go by the mistake कि Environment Protection Act के अंदर है ये. इंडिया में उल्टा है. इंडिया में Wildlife Protection Act आया 72 में, Environment Protection आया 86 में, Biodiversity Protection आया 2002 में. सबसे पहले आना चाहिए था Environment, उसके अंदर Biodiversity, उसके बाद Wildlife. Seed banks are the methods of ex situ conservation, are the methods of ex situ conservation, where the seeds can be stored, where the seeds can be stored, where the seeds can be stored as a backup, in the case of seeds can be stored as a backup in the case of any unforeseen circumstances, any unforeseen circumstances. Any unforeseen circumstances. The global seed vault, the global seed vault, the global seed vault located at Norway, known as Doomsday Vault, known as Doomsday Vault, or Svalbard Global Seed Vault, or Svalbard Global Seed Vault, is the most important seed bank, working as a backup for loss of biodiversity, and hence it is known as Doomsday Vault. Hence it is known as Doomsday Vault. It is located 1,000 meters deep inside the mountain. It is located 1,000 meters deep inside the mountains. Next point. Is India a part? Yes. Next point. India's national seed bank. India's national seed bank, located at Institute of High Altitude Research. Institute of High Altitude Research. कहाँ पे? लेह. मतलब वही लेह लद्दाख, but Leh is the second largest seed bank after Svalbard. Is the second largest seed bank after Svalbard. Developed by Indian Council of Agriculture Research. Indian Council of Agriculture Research, ICAR. कौन सी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है अंडर ICAR? हमने उस दिन किया था एरिड जोन के लिए काजरी, और कौन सी दूसरे अंडर है? दैट इज एरिड जोन के लिए दो है, एक तो मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एनवायरनमेंट के अंडर है और एक मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर. ऑब्वियसली मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर की इज मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट. व्हाट इज उसका नेम? सेंट्रल एरिड जोन रिसर्च इंस्टीट्यूट, काजरी. याद है, किया था. डू दिस वेरी प्रॉपरली. जितने अपने नोट्स है, एक या दो क्वेश्चन छोड़ के बाहर से कुछ नहीं आएगा. 1 or 2 क्वेश्चंस एंड दैट. उतना तो ऑब्वियसली यूपीएससी है. आई कैनॉट गिव यू एवरीथिंग. यूपीएससी पता नहीं कहाँ से उठाएगा कहाँ से नहीं. फॉर दैट फिर उसके लिए 100 से 100 क्वेश्चन के लिए मुझे सब छोड़ के सिर्फ न्यूज़पेपर के नोट्स बनाने पड़ेंगे और साल में एक एनवायरनमेंट का क्लास लेना पड़ेगा, विच इज इम्पॉसिबल. सो but still, so this will be most of the, but what we are doing is more than enough. So it is known as, here, located here, you should remember, it is by ICAR, comma, Indian Council of Agriculture Research, comma, CSIR, What is CSIR? Council of Scientific and Industrial Research and Department of Biotechnology. And Department of Biotechnology. Department of Biotechnology. In India, the seed bank is, in India, the seed bank is managed by full stop, dash likhna, who manages it? National is managed by National Bureau of Plant Genetic Research. National Bureau of Plant Genetic Research. National Bureau of Plant Genetic Research. कहाँ पे? Headquarter? Yes, आपके बाजू में. पूसा रोड, न्यू दिल्ली. न्यू दिल्ली. National Bureau of Plant Genetic Research, New Delhi. Third, बीज बचाओ आंदोलन. बीज बचाओ आंदोलन सुना है इसके बारे में? बीज बचाओ आंदोलन is a movement that began in 1980s. Is a movement that began in 1980s. For saving the domestic or indigenous varieties of seeds. For saving the domestic or indigenous varieties of seeds from modern agriculture. From modern agriculture. From modern agriculture. It started in कौन से स्टेट में? It started in Uttarakhand. It started in Uttarakhand. Objective 1. Objective 1. Promote traditional method of farming. Promote traditional method of farming. Second objective. Increase agro biodiversity. Increase agro biodiversity. Third, protect indigenous variety of seeds. Protect indigenous variety of seeds. Fourth, क्या होगा? Promote, अभी देखो सब कुछ रट के नहीं जा सकते. What will be there? Promote monoculture or avoid monoculture? Will the objective be saving the farmer's money or increasing his income? Saving money is increasing income, right? So increasing the farmer's income, will it be objective? Why? How? Yes. And why no? Why no?
Because monoculture is something that is like increasing their income for now.
Monoculture दिखता है, it increases the income. It is monoculture is like a credit card. आपको लगता है आप अमीर हो जब तक बिल नहीं आता, बट जैसे बिल आता है then it destroys everything. Monoculture ऐसा लगता है farmers are very very rich, but when they do the loss, profit and loss at the end, they will realize कि उन्होंने कुछ नहीं कमाया. यहाँ पे it is going to increase the farmers income because they are going to, what is the most important input? Fertilizer, pesticides, irrigation the government देता है, and सबसे महंगा होता है seeds. So seeds have to be bought from the market. यहाँ पे world का one of the largest community based seed bank है, बीज बचाओ आंदोलन, जहाँ पे the farmers can buy the seeds directly from the farmer at a very very cheap cost. Advertisement का खर्चा नहीं है, स्टोरेज का खर्चा नहीं है, ट्रांसपोर्टेशन का खर्चा नहीं है, रिसर्च एंड डेवलपमेंट का लैब में खर्चा नहीं है, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर मेंटेन करने का खर्चा नहीं है, मार्केटिंग का खर्चा नहीं है। सिर्फ आपको पता होना चाहिए कि ये बीज बचाओ आंदोलन का मेंबर है इन दिस विलेज, आपके पास उसके पास जाना है एंड ही विल सेंड यू द सीड्स। आजकल तो जाने की जरूरत नहीं, व्हाट्सएप इज सच अ पावरफुल मीडियम ऑफ एक्सचेंजिंग द इंफॉर्मेशन। सो it tries to increase the farmers' income by stopping the farmers from buying the seeds, duplicate seeds, as well as promoting the indigenous varieties of seeds. So next objective is increase in the farmers' income. Increase in the farmers' income because the indigenous seeds are less costly and they also maintain the soil fertility. They also maintain the soil fertility. They also maintain the soil fertility. Less costly and they also maintain the soil fertility. In English, this is known as Beej Bachao Andolan. And the last, which is very, very important for this year, is Navdanya. Navdanya. Fourth example is community-based seed bank. Is a community-based seed bank that has presence in around 17 states in India. That has presence in around 17 states in India. In this, the farmers grow the seeds as well as they supply the seeds, ये केस स्टडी मेंस के लिए भी, प्रीलिम्स के लिए भी, यहाँ से क्वेश्चन आ चुका है, नवदाना से अभी तक क्वेश्चन नहीं आ चुका है। एंड नवदाना इज बिकमिंग वन ऑफ द लार्जेस्ट कम्युनिटी बेस्ड सीड बैंक इन वर्ल्ड. It has challenged the companies such as Bayer and Monsanto, जहाँ पे the farmers will exchange. Now what is this? I will first explain you. You are a traditional farmer, you will approach a Navdana. Navdana will say, okay, you should do traditional practice. They will teach you for 1 year how to do traditional agriculture. They will teach you how to grow the seeds. Once you grow the seeds, but the condition is free of cost. The only condition is, जो भी indigenous seeds which you have grown, 25% should be returned back to the Navdana. So उससे this is what, it is an NGO which is working. So इससे farmer से 25% seed वापस लेता है. And that is given to the next farmer. Next farmer will grow, he will give the 25% seed back. इसलिए what you see, organic farming has become so big in India. पहले क्या नाम था organic farming के? Organic India. Organic farming is good, but organic India का घी वर्सेस नॉर्मल घी, अमूल का घी 700 रुपया केजी, ऑर्गेनिक इंडिया का घी 1500 रुपया केजी. किसको खाना है ऑर्गेनिक? उससे अच्छा उतनी की तो दवाई आ जाएगी अगर कुछ हुआ तो. बट नाउ द कॉस्ट हैज बीन रिड्यूस्ड. यू सी व्हाई ऑर्गेनिक इंडिया वाज सो कॉस्टली. बाहर की कंपनी है, इट हैज टू मार्केट. ऑर्गेनिक इंडिया रास्ते पे तो शॉप नहीं डालेगा, मॉल्स के अंदर डालेगा. नाउ यू कैन सी इंटरनेट हैज बिकम सच ए रिवोल्यूशन. यू टाइप ऑन द फेसबुक organic farmer growing regions, Navdana का Facebook page, you buy anything, whatever is present at the market cost वो आ जाता है. एंड कितना फर्क है, अगर 5 किलो गेहूं ये 200 रुपए का है, वो 210 का है. मीन्स ऑर्गेनिक फार्मिंग इज बिकमिंग अ रियलिटी इन इंडिया एंड इट इज नाउ फार्मर्स आर ऑल्सो बेनिफिटिंग. एक बार एक फार्मर बेनिफिट हुआ तो बाजू वाला उसको देख के इट हैज he benefits over the period of time. So this is in the Navdhyana. किसकी? Organic tomatoes की versus, see, food की shelf life should always be less. You are saying organic versus hybrid. Yeah, hybrid की shelf life is good, but nutrition value is 0. It will give you color, but nutrition no. Shelf life कम होगी. इसलिए what Gandhi used to say, eat local. Because when you eat local, you buy every day in the market. And when you buy every day in the market, you eat fresh. When you try to increase the shelf life, आपको obviously उसमें कुछ ना कुछ डालना पड़ेगा. Shelf life, having a good shelf life is good for economy, but not good for health. अब the focus from 1990s to 2010 was economy. Now the focus is individual well-being. Example, garlic. This tea. मैं इसको बोलता हूँ मुझे अदरक वाली चाय चाहिए, पूरा एक अदरक डालता है वो, देन मेरे को थोड़ा स्मेल आता है अदरक का. फाइन. सो व्हाट इज दिस? शेल्फ लाइफ. बट दूध तो ऑब्वियसली है, दूध से अदरक का स्मेल कैसे आएगा? सो ये फर्क होता है कैप्टिव ब्रीडिंग का. So I know him from last 3 years, that is why. So I know captive breeding. So next, in the Navdhyana, the farmers are encouraged to grow their own seeds. Farmers are encouraged to grow their own seeds. Taught the traditional method of farming. And at the end of the season, they should return 25% of the seeds back. They should return 25% of the seeds back. Navdhyana is also a movement promoting ecofeminism. What is ecofeminism? Pol Science students have done this environmental feminism. That is the ecofeminism. Ecofeminism मतलब क्या होगा? Promoting women's welfare in the agriculture. क्यों? Because पिछले साल के economic survey ने कहा इंडिया में there is a feminization of agriculture happening. What do you mean by feminization of Indian agriculture? There are more females in Indian agriculture. Why? Because Indian agriculture has become less remunerative. So the males, rather than working in the agricultural fields, they are working in the factories in the nearby cities. बचता कौन है खेत में? Females. Because what is happening in the Indian villages? Brain drain हो रहा है. जो young population है, which should be hard working, which should take the initiative even for the good governance, they all leave the villages because villages में कुछ नहीं है. They are working in the nearby cities or in the large towns. So who is remaining back in the villages? 3 categories of people: infants, old age, which are dependent, and females, which then they have to work in the farms. And the 4th category which remains is जिनको बाहर कुछ demand नहीं है. That is the criminal elements, the anti-social elements. इसलिए the condition of villages is falling. Villages के लिए नहीं, at the state level this applies to Bihar. Fine. Biharis are talented, Bihar is not talented. ऐसी कहावत है. क्यों? Because most of the people from Bihar are working in the outside. So who will lead the development of the Bihar? Only old people are remaining there, या only females are remaining there. Fine. The same thing what is known as an feminization of Indian agriculture. Ecofeminism. So ecofeminism is a branch of feminism is a branch of feminism that emphasizes on the connections between woman and nature. That emphasizes between woman and nature. The role of woman in environment, ये prelims के लिए important है. The role of woman in environment was first highlighted in the बॉर्न COP 23. कब हुआ था बॉर्न COP 23? 2017. So बॉर्न COP 2017 का एक ही इंपॉर्टेंट है. दिस वॉज द फर्स्ट क्लाइमेट चेंज का कॉन्फ्रेंस विच हाईलाइटेड द रोल ऑफ वुमन एंड द ट्रेडिशनल फॉरेस्ट ड्वेलर्स, दैट इज वी कैन से इन इंडिया आदिवासीज इन द क्लाइमेट चेंज. इससे पहले देयर वाज नो रोल ऑफ वुमन एंड आदिवासीज इन द क्लाइमेट चेंज, बट नाउ द बॉर्न COP 23 highlighted the first time the role of women in the climate change. Fine with this? So based on this, अब सी कैसे क्वेश्चन आता है. बीज बचाओ आंदोलन के बारे में जो आया था क्वेश्चन, इट वाज द बीज बचाओ आंदोलन वाज लॉन्च्ड बाय द मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर टू सेव द सीड्स. ट्रू और फॉल्स? False. It is a community led movement. Instead of बीज बचाओ आंदोलन they can ask you नवदायना मूवमेंट. सेकेंड स्टेटमेंट ये आ सकता है इन द नवदायना मूवमेंट फार्मर शुड रिटर्न अराउंड, फार्मर कैन ग्रो हिज ओन सीड्स बट ऑल्सो शुड कॉन्ट्रीब्यूट बाय रिटर्निंग सम सीड्स टू द सीड बैंक. एग्जैक्टली 25% नहीं पूछेंगे. ट्रू और फॉल्स? ट्रू. फाइन. सो दिस इज, क्योंकि एक क्वेश्चन हर साल आ रहा है. पिछले साल आके गया था ऑन कंजर्वेशन एग्रीकल्चर, उसके पहले आ चुका है ऑन द राइस इंटेंसिफिकेशन, उससे एक साल पहले आया था ऑन द सस्टेनेबल शुगर केन इनिशिएटिव, उससे पहले एक साल आके गया था ऑन द बीज बचाओ आंदोलन. अब इसमें बचा है नवदायना मूवमेंट. फाइन. एक एक थीम पे एक ऐसा क्वेश्चन दे आर आस्किंग यू. And how do you do then the in situ conservation? In situ conservation is by establishing, very easy because it is only for prelims, protected areas network. Why they are known as protected areas network? Because this animals are protected from humans, and this protected areas network are always backed by and generally in India they affect human beings. Article 14 or 19 or 21 or 23. कौन सा? Protected areas network affects which right of humans? Right to move in any territory of India, right to settle in any territory of India. कौन सा? 19. They restrict your Article 19 that you cannot move and go and say any territory of India मतलब वाइल्ड लाइफ सेंचुरी में जाके मैं सेटल हो जाऊंगा और नेशनल पार्क में मैं जाके सेटल हो जाऊंगा. It is not going to challenge your right to life, but it is going to hamper your the 19. Therefore, always if it is taking away any right, it has to be backed by legislation. And in India, the protected areas network, and in the world, the protected areas network are national parks. Wildlife sanctuaries. Conservation reserves. Community reserves. eco-sensitive zones. Biodiversity heritage sites. Biosphere reserves. And there are in situ conservation can also be done outside we have done this. Important bird and biodiversity areas. These are the important bird and biodiversity areas. Don't write anything, just tell me the answer of this. फिर हम अलग से लिखेंगे. National parks declared by whom? Why the word is national park all over the world? Because in the world, national parks are declared by the central governments. And anything that is declared by the state government in the world is known as sanctuary. Anything that is declared in the world by UNESCO along with the national government becomes biosphere reserves. Now, but we are doing it only from the Indian point. क्या पूछती है UPSC? Comparison between these three. Second, act. कौन से act के अंदर? And third, applied question. कि उसका function क्या है? So इसका function सबका is conservation. But biosphere reserve is conservation plus natural use. Fine? So national parks by union government, state government by both. By both. In India, state governments will declare the national parks in the state, union government will declare it in UTs. So the answer is by both union and state governments. Under Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Wildlife sanctuaries. By the union and state government. Under the Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Conservation and community reserves. Who declares them? By same union and the state governments. Under Wildlife Protection Act. Remember the exceptions. बाकी कुछ याद रखने की जरूरत नहीं है. There was no concept of community reserves, conservation reserves before the 2003. Now it is under the Wildlife Protection Act Amendment 2003 by the union and the state government. Eco-sensitive zone under central government only. Though state government will notify it later on, but declared by the central government under Environment Protection Act 1986. Biodiversity heritage sites by state government under National Biodiversity Act 2002. Under National Biodiversity Act 2002. Biosphere reserves under बहुत ही सिंपल है, एक क्वेश्चन इसमें से आता है. इट इज वेरी इजी. सी, रिमेंबर द एक्सेप्शंस रादर देन रिमेंबरिंग द each and everything. National parks, wildlife sanctuary, conservation reserves, community reserves, tiger reserves, कोई भी reserves हो, it is declared by the both central and the state government. Under which act? Under the Wildlife Protection Act 1972. अब initially India का most of the forest laws were declared by Britishers, and therefore इतना याद रखना, because they were declared by the Britishers, Indian citizens as such did not have rights, and therefore the conservation reserve या community reserve versus conservation reserve, forest owned by the government, forest owned by the private. It is also under the Wildlife Protection Act, but उसका amendment. Example of conservation reserve, just अपना शंकर रोड end होने के बाद जो जंगल दिखता है, that is an example of an conservation reserve. It is also by the Wildlife Protection Act, but the difference is highest level of protection, lower level of protection, lower level of protection. Fine. So ये जितने भी important है, it is under the Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Even biosphere reserves, if the central government declares it, it initially declares under the Wildlife Protection Act 1972. So as a central government has declared 18 biosphere reserves in India, then UNESCO checks whether it is satisfying the conditions, and then UNESCO takes up certain biosphere reserves under it, under the Man and Biosphere Reserve program. So this year, initially there were 10 biosphere reserves which were under the Man and Biosphere Reserve program. Now this year 11th biosphere reserve has been added, and that is Kanchenjunga Biosphere Reserve. So jitna bhi hai, tiger reserves, elephant reserves, bird sanctuaries, wildlife sanctuaries, all this is under the Wildlife Protection Act, except, very easy, eco-sensitive zone, Environment Protection Act, and biodiversity heritage sites. Jisme biodiversity, it is under the National Biodiversity Act. Fine. National Biodiversity Act is very simple to remember. Fine. So based on this, the questions are there. They will give you any statement that is eco-sensitive zone is under the Wildlife Protection Act. No. Under the Environment Protection Act. So no need of remembering anything else except eco-sensitive zone and national and biodiversity heritage sites. इस साल के लिए focus on biodiversity heritage site, because 3 साल से numerous biodiversity heritage sites have been declared, but there has been no question from this area of the biodiversity heritage sites in India. Have I done in geography the difference between the national parks, wildlife sanctuaries and biosphere reserves? ब्रीफ में मतलब कितना ब्रीफ में पढ़ना है हमें? Did I tell you कि किसका area is declared by legislation, किसका नहीं है? Let me finish this, then we'll take break. Now you only tell me act इसका नेशनल पार्क का वाइल्ड लाइफ प्रोटेक्शन एक्ट 1972 एजेंसी सेंट्रल एंड स्टेट गवर्नमेंट. Wildlife sanctuary, same. That is Wildlife Protection Act 1972, both central and state government. Biosphere Reserve, initially only central government. Central government will declare उसका national component. Under Wildlife Protection Act 1972, and then it will be under UNESCO. Now, what is the concept of what is the concept of why national parks? Why they are established? Now, I am asking you, is any human interference allowed in national park? Sure. In the core area, obviously. Is any human interference allowed in the biosphere reserves? In wildlife sanctuaries? Core areas mein? In biosphere reserves, core areas में no human interference. In wildlife sanctuary, limited human interference. In the national parks, no human interference. यही तो problem हो रहा है आजकल. The law says no interference in the core areas. फिर आता है Forest Right Acts, which gives community rights, individual rights, land rights to both communities as well as the individuals, even in the core areas. Getting it? So this original legislation says, you see, any protected area is divided into 3 areas. The innermost inaccessible area is known as core areas, जिसमें कभी भी human interference is not allowed. Then the government passes Forest Rights Act, which gives individual or communities or the group of people rights to settle or build houses even in the core areas. So environmentalists challenge this. And in 2009, they go to the Supreme Court saying that it is against the concept of conservation. Fine? And then, फिर वो judgment का, वो case का अभी judgment देता है Supreme Court की evict those forest dwellers. Fine? अब ये problem क्यों? This problem is because there are 2 ways of approaching. Indian way, Eastern way, Adivasis will live in synergy with the forest. They will never harm the forest life. और जो बाहर से देख रहे हैं ये NGOs सब, they are most western led NGOs जिनका कहना है कि आदिवासीज etc harm the forest life. This is what the problem is happening. The way of living is totally different. जैसे हम कहते हैं tropical evergreen forest, जितने ज़्यादा earthworms उतना ज़्यादा it is fertile. उनका कहना है कि उतने ज़्यादा it is pest, apply more pesticide. So the problem comes in which approach you are following. So जो government ने किया था by giving the Forest Right Acts, it is very very good because generation से they are living in the forest and they don't have any rights. They can be evicted any time. Because इससे पहले the most important act was Indian Forest Act 1927, which defines the forest. अब what is the definition of forest? By the Government of India Act 1927, there is no definition of forest. ये भी एक current का चीज याद रखना है. सबसे कमी उस act की और the biggest problem of the Indian Forest Act 1927, which is the most important act for any government to follow, is there is no definition of forest. Then that matter went in the Supreme Court. Supreme Court ने कहा कि I will follow the definition of forest which is given in Oxford Dictionary. So Oxford Dictionary का definition of forest is followed. And in that dictionary, Oxford Dictionary का definition of forest जो कुछ है, that became the Indian Forest Act because it was made by Britishers. Anything disturbance in forest was legally penalized. वो भी act है. Then there is National Forest Policy which says 33% of India should be under forest. वो भी एक act है. And then there came a Forest Right Acts which tried to do remove away the historical injustice caused by the Indian Forest Act. फिर there is Wildlife Protection Act जो कहता है core areas में कुछ भी allowed नहीं. Indian Forest Act जो कहता है कि कुछ भी तोड़ो you are liable for 3 years of imprisonment in the jungle. और ये तीसरा एक्ट आता है जो कहता है नहीं जाके सेटल हो जाओ. अब कैसे सेटल हो जाएंगे? बिना फॉरेस्ट तोड़े घर बांधेंगे. घर बांधने के बाद बिना कुछ हार्म किए कैन दे सर्वाइव? लकड़ी भी अगर जला नहीं है, देयर इज नो ट्रांसमिशन लाइंस, दे विल हैव टू बर्न द फायर. So that is what is causing the problem. So what did the government did? Government in 2017 took a very good decision of removing bamboo from the definition of wood in the forest, because if you use wood, मतलब wood में timber के definition में initially bamboo was there. Major forest produce में major forest produces timber. Once अभी it is not there. Amendment say it is not there. Now if it is there in the definition of timber, bamboo means you cut the bamboo, you use bamboo, you do anything with bamboo, you are liable for 3 years of imprisonment. So obviously exploitation by the forest officials was very very high under the Indian Forest Act. Therefore we changed. फिर ये आया, most of the central state governments Supreme Court का order follow कर रहे थे. You now know which government intervened. सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने कहा नहीं, यू कैन नॉट एविक्ट द फॉरेस्ट. ये 2009 की केस है. 2006 का एक्ट, 2009 की केस, और उसका जजमेंट अभी 2019 में, फाइन, जिसमें द फॉरेस्ट पर्सनल वेयर दैट इज द ट्रेडिशनल फॉरेस्ट ड्वेलर्स वेयर बीइंग रिमूव्ड. सो वी विल डू दिस आफ्टरवर्ड्स कि क्या है. देयर आर 2 डेफिनेशन, अदर फॉरेस्ट ड्वेलर्स एंड एसटीज. एसटीज के लिए देयर इज नो टाइम लिमिट, अदर फॉरेस्ट ड्वेलर्स के लिए देयर इज अ टाइम लिमिट ऑफ 3 generations. 3 generations means they should be living in the forest for last 75 years. So coming here, you should remember no human See, it is again very simple to remember. कौन से नेशनल लॉज है? ये 2. ये किसका कंसेप्ट है? यूनेस्को का. बैन कल्चर किस कंट्री में है? इंडिया में. सो सब कुछ बैन. यहाँ पे नहीं, प्रॉपरली कंजर्व करो एज वेल एज यूज करो. ऐसे नहीं कि स्टॉप, जनरेशन से रह रहे हमारे पूर्वज, सडनली इट बिकम्स अ नेशनल पार्क और आपको अब पता चलता है कल से यू डोंट हैव एनी राइट्स इन द फॉरेस्ट. See, this has happened with me also. That is the village where I am from originally. It is located at the foothills of the Western Ghats. So सडनली 2013 में एक नोटिस आता है कि आपका ये इलीगल ऑक्यूपेशन है, यू शुड एविक्ट द रीजन, एंड दिस इज माय 4th जनरेशन इन दैट विलेज, 3rd जनरेशन भी नहीं, 4th जनरेशन, और हमें नोटिस आता है दैट यू शुड एविक्ट द फॉरेस्ट बिकॉज यू आर स्टेइंग इलीगली। मोस्ट इंटरेस्टिंग थिंग इज कि मेरे बाजू में जो पुलिस स्टेशन है और जो फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट का ऑफिस है उसको भी नोटिस आता है कि वो इलीगल है। सो दिस इज व्हाट इज हैपनिंग। क्यों? कोऑर्डिनेशन ही नहीं बिटवीन द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट एंड द स्टेट गवर्नमेंट और बिटवीन द लोकल गवर्नमेंट। मतलब फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट का खुद का ऑफिस वहाँ पे इलीगल है, जो डीएफओ का बंगलो है वो भी इलीगल है, जो डीएसपी का बंगलो है वो भी इलीगल है, वो और पूरा का पूरा विलेजेस इलीगल है। पता था कुछ नहीं होने वाला, सो वी टुक द नोटिस, फेंक दी वो नोटिस, क्योंकि हमें तो कुछ करना नहीं, देयर आर पीपल हु विल बी फाइटिंग अगेंस्ट इट, कुछ नहीं होने वाला। दिस इज द प्रॉब्लम दैट हैपेंस। BRS बायोस्फीयर रिजर्व, उनका पर्पस इज एक्सचेंज ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन ऑन द वर्ल्ड नेटवर्क ऑफ बायोस्फीयर रिजर्व। देखो तीनों में बाउंड्रीज कैन बी अल्टर्ड, बट एक के लिए देयर हैज टू बी लेजिस्लेशन, अ बिल हैज टू बी पास्ड, एक के लिए देयर इज एग्जीक्यूटिव ऑर्डर। व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ दिस वर्ड सेक्रेड? मतलब परमानेंट। इसमें इसके लिए ये लॉ अप्लीकेबल ही नहीं होगा. सो NA नॉट अप्लीकेबल बिकॉज वो एक अलग ही कंसेप्ट है बायोस्फीयर रिजर्व. For example, then when we focus on tiger only, we call it as a tiger reserve. Getting it? So focus is on the conservation of few or select species. यहाँ पे also the focus is on or select species. बट यहाँ पे द फोकस इज ऑन कंजर्वेशन ऑफ एंटायर एरिया. तो उसको हम टेक्निकली कहेंगे प्लांट्स भी, एनिमल्स भी, बैक्टीरिया भी, सॉइल ह्यूमिडिटी भी, दैट इज जीन पूल. Which is biggest in size? Biosphere. And which is generally smallest? But ये नहीं लिखना because India में it is confusing. So we are doing it only from the Indian point of view. We are not doing it from the world point of view. World में smallest is sanctuary, India में smallest is national park. So इसलिए ये question नहीं आएगा. You should just remember this. So these are the three things. Getting it? We'll meet after break.